This is the Rock and Metal Faith podcast. Standing at the crossroads, faith, rock and roll. Rockin', rockin' metal faith.
I just heard a distant trumpet, a call to arms from far away. I just felt the gentle stirring deep within my heart today. And I knew, Lord, it was you calling out to me. Jesus, I don't understand how I fit within your plan to make this world a better place by loving all the human race. Well, it's hard to see how you need me when I'm buried in my sin. But on that tree, Lord, you died for me, so I guess that's where I begin. On the other side of Calvary, what a glorious place to be. Imagine all the things we'll see on the other side of Calvary.
Welcome back to a very special edition of the Rock and Metal Faith podcast. I'm Aaron Rockman H.
I am Chris Cool.
Oh, and I'm Marq Andrew Speck. Yeah.
Oh, hey, yes,
Yeah,
we are
special
doing
guest.
something very special today. And instead of our usual format there, you don't have to listen to us chat about nothing all the time. We have a very special guest from the band Sweet Crystal. We have Marq Andrew Speck. How you doing, Mark?
Greetings. Yeah, I'm here in the outskirts of Detroit, and I thank you very much for inviting me into your studio today. I really count it a blessing.
That's good. Yes, we enjoy having you, or hopefully this will go well. A while back there, we had kind of given a shout out there. Figured we were going to promote up and coming artists, bands that need promotion, bands we feel are great and deserving of more promotion than what they're getting. And you got in touch with me. Some bands, sent their name, sent a song. You sent like a whole promotional package, and we listened to it. And I thought, this is good. Instead of just throwing up a song, or giving a shout out, we'd like to have you on the program. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been listening to some of your podcasts. I like the last one about Whitecross, man. I thought that was very well done.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for that
That's the
compliment
best
there
compliment
and
we've
stuff.
had ever. So
Is that
thank
right?
you.
Nice.
I know it's good to get feedback there. We keep doing shout outs and telling our listeners, give reviews, give feedbacks. We'd like to know what we're doing good, what we're not doing good. So for everybody out there listening, yes, please leave reviews. And so Mark, also like I said, I've done a little bit of analytics on our program, and we're actually a global program. We've got a few people overseas in Europe and over in India.
Just one or two people, not very many people. But
Well, we'll change that. We'll make sure that
Exactly.
we promote the heck out of this show, man. So
yes,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
But with that, like I said, not all our listeners may have heard Sweet Crystal before, so how would you describe the band?
Well, for one thing, we are a 26-time Detroit Music Award winning Christian rock band. And if you know anything about the Detroit Music Awards, that's the Motown's version of, say, the Grammys. And so we've won 26 of those so far, which means we're just getting close to figuring out how to do it. But what's fun about us, the same three guys, myself, Marq Andrew Speck on keyboards, lead vocals, Bill Blatter on guitar, Steve Weezer on drums, have been together since 1974. This year
1974?
This year is our Golden Jubilee celebration. This is our 50th year together as a band. And there are not many bands that can claim that, and there's certainly not many local bands that can claim that. And we are still together, still playing, still working on putting out new music, which is probably what I sent you guys, the latest single, Whatever Is Needed, Whatever It Takes. It's been out for a couple months now, and it's a little over 77,000 streams as of today. And for Sweet Crystal, that's the biggest impact we've ever made with any of our releases.
Time to plug it in and turn it up.
We are born to stand together. We are here to help the poor. We are meant to feed the hungry, doing all we can and then do more. Guided and directed, no longer lost. We are soldiers in his army, defenders of the cross. Standing on a word that's true, his promise to always do whatever is needed, whatever it takes. Families of the fallen, it's for you we say a prayer. Hearing of your heartache, please know we truly care. To give up seems so easy, to stay this course too hard, but you'll find the load gets lighter when you give it up to the Lord. Yeah, and start standing on a word that's true, on his promise to always do whatever is needed, whatever it takes. Now listen, in all we say and all we do, the light of Christ will come shining through. Sins forgiven, lives renewed. This is what he will do for you. The path that lies before us, it offers a new start. This is how we change the world, with open arms and loving hearts. Play it, Billy.
Where are you guys based out of? Are you still based out of Michigan?
Out of Detroit, yeah, just the suburbs of Detroit, basically, yeah. And we've been here ever since high school. And here we are still since high school. And as a matter of fact, Steve and Bill, guitar and drums, have played together even 2 years before I met them. So if you want to add those into their friendship, they've been around a long time. Our latest bass player, which is number 13, we go through bass players like Spinal Tap goes through drummers. But Marty Kukar has been with us now for over 5 years, so I think it's safe to say that we've stabilized that position.
Well, that's good.
Now, like some other bands out there, are you guys doing this full time, or are you guys doing other work?
I personally am doing it full time. I have for the last 6 years. Once I retired from my day gig. Steve, the drummer, is retired, so it's full time for him when he's not golfing. Bill still works for a very high end music company, so he works full time. But the music is here all the time. We don't stop. We get together every weekend, whether we have shows coming up or a recording process, just to rehearse. And that's pretty amazing. After all these years, we still like to get together. We work on new songs all the time. We work on other people's projects when they come through the studio, but basically it's Sweet Crystal, and that is who we are, and that is what we will continue to do.
Great. Yeah, you brought up your new single there, Whatever Is Needed, and 71,000 plus streams. That's incredible. And you guys, we're going to talk about this a little later but I also want to say congratulations on a cover tune you guys did, reaching 27,000 streams. And I looked up your analytics.
Wow.
According to Spotify, you guys have 14,000 monthly listeners. That's pretty incredible, I think.
I think it's a blessing to the band, especially because we aren't on any major label. We're just our own group of guys. I own Nightcrawler Music, but that's been my label since 1976. And we just continue to put out. Yeah, you're talking about Home Sweet Home, the Mötley Crüe song that we like to call it Crystallize. Whenever we do a cover tune, and we usually do one with every CD, we crystallize it and turn it into our own. And we play that live. And the reason we play it live is because a lot of times when you're an original band, people don't know if they like your stuff or if you're any good at it because they're not familiar with it. When you play a song like Home Sweet Home, the way we do it, and they come away liking that, all of a sudden it opens up their perception of us and who we are and what we're trying to do. And we've kind of tweaked the vocals a little bit to talk about heaven. Heaven is our home sweet home. We're talking about this life is the hard part when you listen to the lyrics. And we talk about, well, we're on our way home sweet home. And for us, we tell people we're singing about heaven. So it fits with the scope of who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's great. You take a song, and while it was not the original meaning of the original song, you can still tweak it and give it a brand new meaning. I think that's great. And, it's a great song, even in its original format. And I like what you guys have done with it. Just telling Chris, I had a chance to listen to it. I was listening to you guys on random through Spotify just to get a good overview of your music. And all of a sudden this piano riff came up and going, I know that piano.
There you go. You think you've heard it before. Yes.
and so I'm listening to it, yeah. And then the heavy guitars kick in, and you guys started off with the chorus instead of the way Mötley Crüe did it, jumping into the verses. You start off with the chorus. Yeah. I'm going, this is cool. I like this, and I'm listening to see what else you changed, and your guitarist have brought in a few new riffs, brings a little new life into it, and makes it your own instead of just the straight cover of something we've already heard type of thing. I think it brings fresh life to it.
Have you gotten any feedback from the previous, from Mötley Crüe about that version?
I would be amazed if anybody heard it. But I tell you what, I heard a version by, Carrie Underwood. And she does a version of Home Sweet Home. And it's our version. It's our version. When she came out with it, I went, listen to this, you guys. This is like the arrangement we put together. So I think it kind of snuck out there, and somebody heard it and went, oh, I'm going to put it out. So I take that as...
You Yes, I'm ready now.
Then close your eyes, tap your heels together 3 times, and think to yourself, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
You know I'm a dreamer, but my heart's of gold. I've had to run away high so I wouldn't come home low. Just when things went right, it doesn't mean they were always wrong. Just take this song and you'll never feel left all alone. Take me to your heart, feel me in your bones. Just one more night, and I'm coming off this long and winding road. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Oh, sweet home. Tonight, tonight, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Home, sweet home. You know that I've seen too many romantic dreams up in lights falling off that silver screen. My heart's like an open book for the whole world to read. Sometimes nothing keeps me together at the seams. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Home, sweet home. Tonight, tonight, I'm on my way. Just set me free. Home, sweet home. Home, sweet home. Home, sweet home. Home, sweet home. Home, sweet. Come on! Yeah, I'm on my way. Baby, I'm on my way. Home, sweet home. Tonight, tonight, I'm on my way. Just set me free. Home, sweet
a compliment. I don't
There you
take
go.
For
any of this
sure.
stuff too seriously, but the fact
So,
that somebody hears it.
are you the lead writer, developer of the songs for Sweet
Yes.
Crystal?
Yeah, I would say 90% of our material starts with ideas that I come up with. The other 10% starts with jams that we do. When we get together here, before we start rehearsing actual songs, we just kind of jam. I turn on the recorder and we just come up with licks and ideas. So a lot of the songs start with just a 30-second snippet of something that we found. If it's a full-blown song to start with, it's usually up to me. I bring them the arrangement because I do all the lyrics and I have to sing them. So I make sure it's something I can sing. But at that point, then
Yeah.
I give it to Billy, our guitar player. If you ever notice, there's probably more guitar-oriented songs in Sweet Crystal, even though I have a few keyboards in my arsenal. Um, but I really think guitar is a stronger instrument. And so I always write with leaving spaces for Bill to bring in the guitar and turn it into heavier songs. I do the ballads and stuff with pianos and organs and strings, but I really feel his additions to my songs are what make them Sweet Crystal, and that it's a sound that we've developed and we continue to this day. Even though we write differently now than we did back in 1974, you know what? We've kept our core idea of who we are and the sound that we like, and I think that's pretty amazing in this day and age where
You
music
guys
just comes and goes.
definitely turned heads. I know when Aaron sent me your guys' package to listen to, I thought that he had accidentally sent me part of Petra's when we did a Petra
All right.
show.
All right.
I thought he made a boo-boo because
Yeah.
when I played your video, I'm like, hey, you guys look so much like Petra like back in the 80s,
Well,
especially your videos.
and I believe that. And what's funny about that is my wife and I have an anniversary coming up, and we're going down to Ohio to see Greg Volz and his Petra, along with Russ
Okay.
Taft. And that's going to be our anniversary to ourselves. And
Wow, well,
Sweet
happy
Chris-
anniversary.
Thank you. Yeah, we just done a road trip, and we're just going to go see a band that we grew up with, and just let's see how these guys have maintained all these years.
Great, yeah. And well, talking about you guys been together 50 years, so is Petra. Like I just caught them last year here in Alberta, and we thought it was going to be the only Canadian date, and now they've announced they're doing a whole Canadian tour this summer. So
There's actually two Petras out there. The John Schlitt Petra, he just played last night down in Temperance, Michigan, and the one we're going to see is Greg Volz, which was
Right.
the original singer. So there's two of them touring right now. It'd be interesting to see if they ever got shared a stage.
Yeah,
Who would sing
it would
what?
be interesting. It's like a lot of mainstream bands. There's a lot of bands that have gone through lineup changes, and then former members decide they want to do that band's material, and there's like 5 bands with the same name now, and you're trying to figure out
Yes.
who's in which lineup.
Yes.
Oh, God. You got to be careful because they become tribute bands. It's the original roadie that's actually now in the band. He just kept the name.
That's right. So how does your faith come into your songs? I notice, I forget which song it is, but you guys were in a church, and the way your music video opened, like it was just wow.
Well,
I mean,
thank
you
you.
guys must have spent a lot of time making it look like this is not your usual Christian band.
Well,
You
our
know,
faith is the key component to why we're still together. We didn't start out as a Christian band per se. We started out as young guys wanting to be rock and roll stars right out of high school and college. And it wasn't until I met Jan, the woman who was to become my wife, and I learned more about who Jesus was by dating her, and ended up having a huge epiphany and changing my life around. And at that point, I realized I had some physical challenges. I had a hole in one of my vocal cords that developed where I was having a real hard time singing. And I went in and had some surgery done. And 6 weeks after the surgery, I couldn't sing. My voice wasn't back. And I asked the surgeon about it. I said, when can I start singing again? And he said, what are you talking about singing? I told him I'm the lead singer of a band. And he goes, I thought you were a band leader. He said, I never would have done that surgery if I knew you needed vocal cords to sing. And that took me to my knees. with Christ. And my wife going, what just happened here? How do we get over this? Well, long story short, a year later, I was singing and actually won a vocal contest. And here I am 40 some years later, and I'm still singing. So it is truly the hand of God and the work of Christ in my life that has kept me going. Much to my joy, Steve and Bill said they're perfectly happy with this journey into Christian rock. The other guys in the band kind of faded out, and we went through times when there were just three of us, times when there were five of us, and now it's been four for quite a while with Marty. So it's our faith that we try to show in the lyrics of our songs. We don't hit people over the head with Jesus saves, you're going to hell if you're a sinner. We tell stories of our lives and what we've gone through and the light at the end of the tunnel we found, thinking that we've probably gone through or are going through what a lot of you are going through. And this is how we overcame it. And hope that starts a lot of conversations. We play a lot of bars, which I think people are kind of amazed, but we do a lot of clubs, and people will come up after a set and ask, are you talking about God? Are you talking about Jesus? In probably the most strangest place you'd think to find somebody singing about that, but that's who we are, and that's what we've been doing for our entire career. And until God calls us home, we'll just keep doing it.
Wow, that's an amazing story and amazing testimony.
Yeah,
I feel blessed, man. I feel blessed to be here and to be able to do what I'm doing, I'll tell you.
And that answer just covered, like, I think a multitude of questions I had. I was going to ask where you play mostly your gigs and how the reception is. It sounds like, for people who are watching in the bar, probably hearing you for the first time, sounds like the reception is pretty favorable.
Well, I'll tell you why, Aaron. It's because we can hold our own musically with anybody that we play with. If we've opened up for a lot of different bands. As a matter of fact, we've got some shows coming up with some major acts. And if it's a heavier, more metal crowd, we will put a set together. We have enough material. We've got, I think, 150 songs. We put enough songs together in that genre that we fit right in with who we're playing with. If it's a church and it's more contemporary, more worshipful, we can dial that back. We do a lot of events for Wounded Warrior Project and veterans organizations. And so we have a whole patriotic set that we can play, still based around Christ, but the themes of the song, like Warriors and Fanfare, are all about the men and women of the armed forces and their families and the sacrifices they've given it. So we are able to blend in with whatever crowd or event that it is and still come away with people watching our live show, which is, I'm pretty energetic on stage, actually. They'll come away from the live show feeling entertained, but also being lifted up, because none of our songs end up negative. They may be about a negative topic, but at the end, it's always a way to get through it. And that's what I think people like about Sweet Crystal shows, is that you usually leave feeling better about yourself than probably when you came in. Unless you came in like us, and we're happy just to be there.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I think with the song where you have a guy and a girl, and the guy leaves and the girl follows, and I was struck by how good you guys were telling the story.
Oh, When I Tell You I Love You, yes.
Yes, that's what it was.
That's a really sweet video. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. Who does your videos, by the way, out of curiosity?
It all depends. That one was done by a young lady in the UK, and she had the idea for the video and contacted us, and she put it together because those were her dancers, and it just fit the song. What's interesting about that song, you guys, is we originally wrote it. We have friends, we have family members that you can see are hurting, that are going through something bad, but they don't want to hear about God. They don't want to hear about Jesus because that's not in their DNA at the moment. So how do you reach somebody that is hurting? Well, you just tell them that you love them. And that was the whole premise of that song. By the time you get to the end, then you talk about God, and He's there for you every moment of the way. But we will do that in places that are definitely not that are secular, and it's a love song. And we just tell people, you know what, somebody's hurting, you don't know how to reach out to them, just tell them that you love them. And this young lady heard that song, our version of it, which was just basically a lyric video, and she just took it and ran with it, and we just sat back and just went, whoa.
Yeah, it's done really well.
I'm very pleased.
And it's a great song too. I don't spend a lot of time watching videos, but I spend a lot of time listening to music while I'm doing other stuff. Usually when I'm working, and I'm not supposed to be listening to music, but I do anyways.
And
yeah, you know, it's a great song actually.
Thank you for saying that. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, that one came easy.
How many albums have you guys put out?
Full release is 7. And we're
7.
8. The next one is 8. And that's what it'll be called. 8. If you notice how we structure our stuff, we have Quad, which was 4. Got Your 6 with the 6th one. 5 Cat Rock was the 5th one. 7th Heaven was the 7th one. So we try to keep it thematic like that. So 8 will be coming out. Whatever is needed, whatever it takes is the first cut from that. We've got 7 other songs to finish recording and producing, and then there'll be 8 cuts on that, just like there were 7 cuts on 7, there were 6 on Got Your 6th, and so on.
By the time you get up to album 20, you'll have a double album.
Oh my God, I'll be dying. Yeah, it'll be a double live. Yes, 20 years of Crystal. Yeah.
Oh, hey, that sounds.
Aaron, go for it.
Oh, go ahead. And I was going to say, that sounds great. Like years ago, I picked up the 20 years live res.
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
How did you guys come up with Sweet Crystal, the name?
The name, well, it's interesting. It had to be God, because when we started out, we certainly weren't Christian. And I actually had a boa constrictor named Crystal, and we were just trying to figure out a name for it, and not for the snake, for the band. And we just said, you know what? Let's just call it Sweet Crystal. And we just all kind of laughed and went with it. But it wasn't until we became born again and I started reading the Bible. In the book of Revelation, it talks about the sweet waters that flow from underneath the throne of God, clear as crystal. And I showed it to the guys and I said, look, this was in the Bible, Sweet Crystal. This was God's idea all along. It just, took me a while to get around to where it came from. But it's, for when we're talking about the faith side of the band, that makes a lot. I'll just tell them that story. But the real thing is, it was just my boa constrictor from high school into college, and that was the name of the stupid snake.
Wow, oh, that's a great story. Actually, that's a great question too, Chris. I always like hearing stories where bands get their names from, and sometimes they were just kicking around. Oh, we're gonna play off an old name we had, or I know one band that threw open their science textbook and pointed to a picture or a word, and that's where they got their name from.
Oh, nice. I kind of feel that way with the snake story. It's just like, what?
And stuff. I noticed in one of your posts, you were talking about some of your equipment there, and you had hooked up a Leslie to your thing. So do you actually have like a Leslie speaker that is normally used to a Hammond B?
Yeah. So you saw the recent post. Yeah. That particular Leslie, and I've had all sorts of Leslies through my life, but that's the only Leslie that they made that was portable. And it's actually it's a 40-pound unit. It's got the rotating horn, but then the bass is a fake rotation through a couple of 5-inch speakers. And they sound nice, but you can't crank them really loud because they're small speakers. And so what I've been reading, that people have been adding low-end speakers to the output jack at the back, which I tried over this weekend. I built 2 10-inch speakers. A friend came over and wired it, and we hooked it up. And now, oh my gosh, it freaking rattles the house. My wife said, yeah, I heard you playing it last night. And I'm going, oh man. So I think I might take this live to a few. We have a couple festivals coming up this summer, and I don't usually take amps along because you just go through the PA and the monitors and what have you. But this thing sounds so good, and I always carry an organ with me. I said, I might just bring this to some of these events and just plug it in, because all of a sudden there's such a difference, an organic difference between a rotating speaker and a pedal. Well, it's a huge difference if you're a keyboard player. So now that I got this thing, and it's not super heavy, but I have a young technician that I pay anyway that carries all my stuff. I don't carry this stuff up and down the stairs anymore. I paid some young guy to take this up and down the stairs. Well worth it. He makes more money than I do at a gig. So for me, that's fine.
Good. Yeah, no, I brought it up. I'm not a keyboard player. I dabble around with the guitars, but every summer there I spend my time down at our local blues music festival.
Oh, and nice.
we actually have an actual Hammond B full-blown Leslie speaker and stuff like that. So when I heard you saying something about hooking up speakers to a Leslie, I'm going, wow, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, dude, there is nothing like a real Hammond through a real Leslie. If you've got access to a B and a Leslie there, I mean, that is just the golden arches of keyboard playing. There is nothing like them. None of the clones, and I've got 4 clones, none of them even match what a real Hammond like that, a tone wheel organ sounds like. So I can sit down at one of those, man, it's just like you can't get me off until it's time to go home.
How long have you been playing the piano?
I'll tell you, I started taking lessons when I was really young. My mom had me take lessons with my sister, but it turns out that I couldn't read music. But we didn't know I couldn't read music because I have what is known as a photographic memory. And I memorized the teacher's hands playing while we had the music in front of us. So I just played what I saw her play. And we got along like that. I never practiced at home. My sister practiced all the time. I never did. We'd come back and do another thing. And finally, the teacher figured out what I was doing. And so put a different piece of paper up there and said, all right, we're going to play this right now. We played it, and I played it. She goes, no, play this. And she'd play something else, and I'd play what she played. And she goes, no, play this. And I go, I don't know what that is. And so that was the end of my lessons because it was a waste of money for my mom, but I knew how to play. So everything you hear me play is strictly by ear, but I didn't play for a long time. I actually was a guitar player for a little while. I lived in Nashville in, would have been 7th grade, 8th grade. And the next door neighbor was in a country band, so I picked up guitar. Turns out when I moved to another state, I lived in a lot of states, moved to another state playing soccer, I fell down, hit a rock. The rock punched through my wrist of my left hand and actually severed the hand from the arm. And so I had to, we had to go to the hospital and get it all set and put back together. So I could never bend my hand back this way, like to play guitar anymore comfortably. So I just turned it right back around and went back to playing keys. So that was God's way of getting me back to the keyboard, because I was a very bad guitar player. So he says, no, if I'm going to use you, you got to go back to what you were doing. So it's interesting, the stories of my life that have brought me here.
Well, yeah, we're all on a journey that sometimes you don't know where it leads, but
yep,
it takes us to
right now I'm in Alberta. I never knew that. Here I am in Alberta. I'm going, this is cool.
And soon you're going to be around the world.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, that's a good point. When do you broadcast your podcasts? Is it a monthly thing or a weekly thing, or how often do you put yours up?
It's been every couple of weeks. That's about it. There's no set schedule. Typically, what we do is I'll record one and then try and get it edited and out rather quickly. We tried one time there, I think last month, when we were busy, and we tried actually recording stuff ahead of where I was going to release the stuff. And a lot of times we do news and birthdays coming up and try and do everything current and then do it all ahead of time. Just kind of got a bit of a headache. I've settled more in a routine now.
I like this platform you're on.
Oh, you like this platform?
Yeah, I've never seen Riverside before until right now. I really like the look of it. It sounds great. I'm going to keep this in mind going forward.
Oh, good. Yeah. We discovered this one through Spotify. We started out with our thing on Spotify and their Spotify for podcasters. And then we got a little note saying at the start of the year, I think it was, that as of June, they're going to discontinue their recording and editing. They're still going to host the podcast, but we have to record it and edit it through a different platform. They recommended Riverside, and I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a try. I actually kind of checked out a bunch of the other ones and going, well,
sure,
they don't have this and they don't have that. They're a little out of our budget. Let's try this Riverside. And I think we had a few problems in the beginning, but hopefully we've got those bugs worked out. As far as our schedule, like I said, I've kind of got it in mind that we're every couple of weeks we'll do a recording and then try and get it out rather quickly. And yeah, you mentioned the last one we did about Whitecross. You know, I'm a huge Whitecross fan ever since
Nice.
you know, the mid '80s when I discovered them, and I was excited to hear they had a new album out and excited to get it and stuff. There's been mixed reviews among the Facebook community. You know, a lot of people aren't liking the change in singer. That seems to be the case nowadays.
The thing is, vocalists, it's hard to maintain your vocal quality. I mean, mine certainly changed after the surgery. I couldn't hit a lot of the high notes that I used to hit, but I also stopped singing a lot of the very negative bar tunes that we were doing. Because before I became a Christian, we played 4, 5, 6 sets a night all week long. And so I sang everything from, you know, Queen to Styx to you name it. And after the surgery, I didn't have that range anymore, but it changed the timbre of my voice. And now, and since then, I've written songs that are in the range that's comfortable for me now. And it changes over time. So when they change singers, a lot of times it's not for personality reasons or not. It's just that your voice is a muscle, and it's a really tiny muscle. And you can hurt it so easily. Some people, you just have to go with a different vocalist, you know, just for that. I remember seeing Whitecross back in the day when Rachel opened for them when they came through here. And I was really pleased with both of those bands. And that was right when we were first starting to get into Christian rock. So I was really happy to see there were other bands out there doing what we were trying to do. I didn't realize the whole genre was there. So it was Whitecross was one of the first bands that I ever realized were Christian bands that I listened to. We opened for Stryper way back in the day when they first came out at a high school in Ann Arbor. So just to show you, that's how far back we go. And my guitar player, go ahead.
I was going to say, that would have been exciting. Yeah?
Yeah, his company is called ISP Technologies. They actually endorse Michael Sweet, and he uses one of their pedals for his guitar for his live show and stuff. So we still have a connection with Michael Sweet and the Stryper thing. So it's just kind of fun. That's 40 years ago, and here we are. Here they are, and we're still here, and it's neat to see the connection between the two bands, even after all these decades.
Yeah, that's incredible and stuff. And well, here you go. You'll notice one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, that is sure. Yeah,
perfect set.
I got them on the wall.
Mine yet.
Nice.
And buying the albums, I think the only one I didn't buy was their album full of covers. I don't mind covers on records, but I typically don't buy entire cover records, put it that way. Usually I find out that I know the originals. I don't need to know here, you know.
Gotcha. And that's why we take great care to not do too many of them, but to actually change them enough so that when you hear, we did a Beatles tune on one of our CDs, which is pretty interesting. I thought that came off really nice. Got to get you into my life, and you wouldn't realize that's what it was until you heard the singing, because the instrumentation and the presentation of it was so different that you just kind of went, I know this song, you know, and then not till you get to the chorus, you go, oh, I know what this is. So that's what we like doing with cover tunes. So people, they'll glean onto it eventually, but it's just fun to do it our own way. We're doing a version of Tina Turner's "Simply the Best" on the next CD, and I turned it into this huge arena rock ballad, and we're actually letting our guitar player sing it. You know, we're going to make him sing some lead on a couple of tunes for this next CD for the first time. So we got a lot of surprises coming up on 8.
Someone needs to do a modern day version of the Veggie Tales. I think you guys would be the perfect guys for that.
You want to hear Sweet Crystal rock up Where's My Hairbrush?
Yeah, Burger song. Yeah.
Oh, man. Probably one of them, but I wouldn't do the entire album. It's just
the entire album.
That's hilarious, man. I bet you some of your listeners don't even know what that is. So now they'll be Googling that, you know. Look at Veggie Tales.
Well, you know, the show is for kids and for adults, for everybody. So
nice.
I'm still a kid at heart. I'm about as old as your band's been around, but I'm still a kid at heart.
Nice. You know what? There's no reason. Age is nothing. I mean, it's your attitude, it's your spirit, and God really does keep you young. You know, and we start each day, my wife and I, with reading the Bible and prayers just to get ourselves energized. It may not be the first thing in the morning, but maybe a couple hours into the morning we go, oh, we forgot to read, and we'll go back and catch up. But I think that is why when people see us and how energetic we are, and it really is the Holy Spirit. That's what keeps us going, because without that, this life, this world is pretty tough, which is what the whatever is needed, whatever it takes is all about. It talks about, first responders and what we're here to do. And we sometimes forget the fact that we're not here just to be us. We're here to, stand with our brothers, feed the hungry, help the poor. And I think maybe that's why this song resonates as well as it does. The video we put out for it, had a gentleman up in Traverse City did the whole AI structure of that, and it was very cool. Totally different for us. We do a lot of live videos and lyric videos, but the video for, we call it Winwit to make it easier to say instead of the whole name. The video for Winwit has gotten 27,000 views since it came out, and it's only been out since April 6th, and it's just like, wow, who's watching this thing?
People are searching, aren't they?
And they are, and I just, for us, it's a blessing because it just shows that at least we're on a path that other people seem to like. And so we just keep going down this path until, like I said, God calls somebody home, but we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And for shows like yours, podcasts like yours, you're introducing a whole different audience to Sweet Crystal. If they've never heard of us, the best thing to do is go to, sweetcrystal.com, and that'll get you on the starting track. But I count you guys a blessing for the band because you're doing exactly what we hope people would do for us. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks you for that too. But, as far as your music goes, we're talking about, Christian bands, and there seems to be two takes on what a Christian band is. You got guys that are very evangelistic and in your face, Jesus saves you, you need Jesus. And that boldness works for some bands, and it might turn other people off. Like you guys are going into dark places, you're going into the bars, and that might turn people off. And then there's other bands saying, well, we don't want to be that bold about it. And they kind of go in the opposite direction where you go, I think these guys are Christians, but it doesn't show through at all in the music. You guys seem to have found this nice balance between the two extremes, where people were willing to hear your music, and then because they hear your music, they're going to hear your message.
I think that's a great way of like dividing up the types of Christian music that there are. I tell you what, I'm amazed when people can be as bold as some of these bands we play with on stage about their faith and about God, and trying to get altar calls, or that has never been something that felt right in my spirit for me. But I admire the heck out of people that have that kind of conviction. And then you listen to some really dark Christian metal, where they're using the super gravelly voice and stuff. And for somebody my age, I find it hard to understand what they're actually singing about. But they are reaching an audience that Sweet Crystal is not trying to reach. I don't know if we ever will, but I think God can use everybody as long as their heart and the message of their song is sincere. But I know what you say about some Christian bands watering it down, and that to me becomes more like praise and worship and church service. And, a lot of churches have now become entertainment centers, where you go to be entertained, and the gospel message is not really the focal point. It's more the people up on stage. And I hope that reaches the people they're supposed to reach. But for Sweet Crystal, we just stay true to who we are, the fact that we've been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and we've been through them all, and we're through them all. And so that's what the songs are about. This is what we struggled with. This is how we got out of it. If you're going through this, talk to us. Hopefully there's something we've written. And if you've heard our music, we go through a lot of different genres within our music. One of our songs just made it to a faith jazz list, top 10. And it was an instrumental that we did. And I said, Sweet Crystal jazz? Where did that happen? I said, but they took one of the instrumentals and it made it into that category. And I go, well, that's cool. So that's a whole nother group of people that may not know us. And all of a sudden, maybe they'll go, look, well, who's Sweet Crystal? And hopefully it's not my job to save people. It's not my job to convince people, who they got to follow. It's my job to open the door and talk about God and the Holy Spirit. It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict them. And he does a great job of that. So my job is just to make sure that you realize there is a path beyond what you're going through right now. And I think that's why we're still together some 50 years later. It's got to be it.
Sounds like a great way of doing it. And the whole music industry has changed. Like when you guys started out, there was no internet, there was no streaming. Everybody was struggling out, trying to get noticed by labels so they can get a record out there, type of thing. You know, it seems like now everything's changed and you guys don't need a label anymore. It seems like you guys have really embraced streaming, especially with the numbers that you are pulling in on the streaming platforms.
I think the record labels, the big labels, are still designed for the mega stars and to do what they do. I get that. You know, of course, I would have loved to have been at that level at some point, but I think God keeps us exactly where we're supposed to be. I mean, you either trust God in everything or you trust him in nothing. And we trust him to have us exactly where we're going to go, to play at the places we're supposed to go, to have our music hit the ears of the people that are supposed to hear it. And so with that kind of trust, you never like get down on yourself for not getting to the Grammys or not playing, you know, a Super Bowl or whatever. If it's meant to be, we will be there. But in the meantime, you just appreciate the one person who listens to your song and takes the time to say, hey, that song really spoke to me. Thank you for doing that. And I think that's the difference now because of streaming, because of the World Wide Web. Yeah, it's much easier to get your music out, but it's also harder because there's just a flood of music. I think they said something like 100,000 songs get released every day. What?
Not only that.
Wow.
There's like I think there's like the anti-Spotify thing. I can't remember what the name of the program is, but there was a list out there of songs that are released on Spotify, but nobody's heard. Like, haven't even had one play or anything like this.
And so it is a strange industry, that is for sure. You don't get into it, as far as I know, you don't get into it to become rich and famous, and the people that do become rich and famous, well, God bless you.
You know, that was my attitude when I started. Like, I dabbled with the guitar, and I'm still dabbling with the guitar apparently, but that was the attitude then. Is you can't get into it hoping you're going to be rich and famous even 30 years ago, and I think it's even more so now because it's that much harder. It was like one of the famous guitarists said, the JJ French from Twisted Sister, he says, the good thing about the internet and streaming is anybody can put out a record. The bad thing is anybody can put out a record. So you have to be good.
Right.
And so you just get lost in the sound.
And I think you're right. It is harder nowadays. Everybody thinks, wow, it's easier because you don't have to be on a label and you can throw your stuff out there. But in the old days, you were a small fish in a small pond in your local scene or whatever. Now you're a small fish in a much larger sea.
Yeah, in an ocean. Yeah, you're just kind of going, wow, where is everybody?
But yes.
That's right. And so I'm a singer and a songwriter. So I could, like there are so many people out there that shouldn't be singing, but they are. Right. And I'm sure Mark can relate to that.
But you know what? You just got to say God bless them. You know, if they feel they can do it and they want to follow through. Because music keeps you young. I mean, that's one thing about playing. Like you're dabbling on a guitar. I still dabble in keyboards. And it's just playing releases endorphins. And then playing songs about and for God releases even bigger endorphins because contemporary music is here today, gone tomorrow. What you do for Christ, what you do for the kingdom will live into eternity. We don't know what that's going to be like. I have no idea once we get there what we're going to do, but whatever you do for the kingdom here will live on. And so that for me is amazing to think that I could, one day, go to be with the Lord and hear my music in heaven, maybe played by other people going, wow, you guys made this thing sound good. So I'm very curious to see it, but just playing in general, dabbling on the guitar, you just feel good. Music just makes you feel good, man. And you don't have to stop at all. I mean, I can play until hopefully I'm 90, 95 years old because you can still hit keys, and that's a gift from God. So you just appreciate it, do it. Don't ever give up on it because there's no reason to.
What would you say to people who are watching this and saying, man, I'm older. I'm past my 30s,
Mm-hmm.
but I would like to do this. Would you encourage them to start the
Absolutely.
singing, the
Absolutely.
guitar,
And I'll tell you why. Because the majority of the bands that we end up playing with at a lot of these multi-band events, all these cats are much older now. Everybody's older. I mean, there are a lot of good young bands out there, and they're going to go through the same learning process that we did. But there are a lot of older musicians that jam together and just have, and basically a lot of them are just cover bands, but that's because they like to play and they can play well. I don't think there's an age barrier for when you can start and stop. I think there may be an age bias in the music industry. If you're a certain age, well, you haven't made it by this level. By the time you're this old, chances are you're not going to. But I'm not worried about that. That is not a concern for us because of technology nowadays. I'm thinking that my band, Sweet Crystal, could still reach a worldwide audience without ever having to do a big tour. Because now they're doing concerts in movie theaters, and somebody's playing from one location and streaming it immediately to all these places. So even as you get older, you don't have to worry about, well, I can't go on the road because I got a job and stuff. No, I would never dissuade anybody from trying to play. What I do tell people that ask me, musicians that ask me, is don't try to chase current musical trends because you will always be behind the curve. Because I want to sound like this artist right now. Well, by the time you get that down, that artist has already moved on to whatever they're doing next. So you really need to be true to yourself and play what's in your heart. If you want to play their songs, that's great, but play it like you would play it. And I think that's why Sweet Crystal is still around, because we have never chased trends in any music. We went through the disco era, we went through punk, we went through, grunge. We've been through every single era of music since the 70s and have never changed what we're doing to match what's trying to happen.
So when you write a song, how do you start it? Is it just the words, or are you more of a writer that I already have the tune. I want it to start the guitar or the piano.
I gotcha. Yeah, I tell you what, the lyrics are the last things usually to get written. Those are the hardest parts of the puzzle for me to come up with because lyrics can be so cliche, and I just don't want to write a song that people go, that rhymes. Good luck with that. I want to write a song that makes a difference. So we start with musical ideas, and like I said, the majority of them usually come from my keyboard work because I have so many toys here. Each one has their own complexion, their own high points, and a single sound will inspire me to come up with a chord pattern or a progression that just fits nice for me. I'll play it for the guys, and we have been together so long that the guys jump right into it, and we'll play the heck out of something for 10 or 15 minutes until we're all comfortable remembering what it is before we get back to something else. So I have to say that's the longevity has allowed us to be as creative as we are. The majority of it comes from me. If it's a real heavy rocker, then that's usually from Billy, some guitar lick that he's come up with. Well, I'll go, wait a minute, what is that? And I'll figure out how to shove it into one of my parts real quick. So actual recording is at higher quality. I'm sorry, I'm reading the captions under there. So that's kind of what it is. So the music usually comes first because we have tons of that. I have a stack of CDs over here, probably close to 100, that we burn while we rehearse. This is before computers. We would just put the CD burner on and make sure that we clicked record and we would just jam. So we have so many ideas just sitting around needing to be combined into a cohesive song. I don't know if I have enough time in my life to ever do that because we just keep moving forward. But it's nice to know if you do run out of inspiration, hopefully one of these little...
Good. So Marq, who were your inspirations?
Are you talking in the past or are you talking right now? Okay. Well, the past is easy because we grew up with a lot of really, really good progressive English bands. We cut our teeth on bands like Genesis and Pink Floyd. Of course, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Keith Emerson was one of my idols growing up. And so we started out heavily influenced by the English rock scene, and being from Detroit, Detroit had a real heavy music scene back in the day with Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, the Stooges, all sorts of that type of rock. But there weren't a lot of bands in Detroit that had keyboard players. So we kind of stood out from the beginning like that. As time progressed, we became influenced by bands like Journey and Styx. Later on in the 80s, I was a big fan of Queensryche. And the lead singer from Queensryche, oh my gosh, his vocal is just perfect rock vocals. Jeff Tate, yeah. He just played in Michigan last week. He was here in Michigan at a club we played at 5 days earlier.
I can tell you're a little influence there by Genesis. Listen to this, I forget which song, but I was like, the way you came into it, I'm like, hey, that reminded me of Genesis in the old days.
So you pick up those influences. Nowadays, my biggest influences as far as vocalist is Neil Morris. If you know who Neil Morris is from the band Spock's Beard, and he's got on his own.
If I were to ask you, if somebody said, who do you guys sound like? Who do you think you would say?
I would say probably Journey. Only my vocals are not that. My voice is more like Meatloaf. So imagine the instrumentation of Journey with a Meatloaf guy singing in front of it. So I guess we'd be Meatloaf Journey.
Journey.
Yeah, I would say, because I don't know. It's hard to find somebody that we sound like.
Yeah,
we don't sound like anybody. But like you said, you can hear influences of all these people we grew up with just pushed in there.
Yep.
But we really don't have anybody who can come up and say, oh, you guys sound exactly like, it just, it doesn't come across like that. And I don't have a problem with that, but I do like the fact that you can hear the influences in our music, because the people that influenced us were superstars and wrote amazing stuff.
Who comes to your shows a lot? Is it older or younger?
You know what? It's hard to say. If it's a nightclub, it's usually, it's an older crowd. We've been around that long, but we had stopped playing live for almost a decade. All right, between the mid '90s and the mid 2000s, we only did studio work. We did songs for TV shows and commercials. We did some independent film work, had a studio, and we kept writing, but we didn't play live for a long time. It wasn't until 2011 that a friend of ours came out. A friend of ours came out and asked if we would come out and play a veterans benefit that he was putting together. He said he was a vet. He's a Vietnam vet. And he said a lot of people from Detroit remembered us from the 60s and 70s and wanted to know if we'd be interested in coming out and doing a live show. We hadn't played live in a decade, a long time. So what we did is we said, all right, you know what? We were right in the middle of putting together the Still Standing CD. I said, let's finish these songs. And one of those main songs is Warriors, which is a song about the men and women of the armed forces. And we came out and we played their benefit show for the first time in 10 years, and we never stopped. We haven't stopped playing since then. We're out playing all the time. So it was really the veterans organization that called us out of kind of hibernation and got us back into playing live. And since then, it's just been uphill ever since. It's pretty interesting.
Thanks, Marq, for your time, for joining us on the podcast.
I appreciate it. No, it's great. I thank you so much for this. I mean, I just love meeting new people like you. And now I have new podcasts that we can also promote as well. So it's a win-win for us.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
This morning I was lying on the floor. I thought to myself, I just can't take this anymore. This life that I'm living, I'd be That's when I heard a small voice in my head. It said, at the foot of the cross, the foot of the cross, salvation, redemption, a new life, this is what it will cost. Bring all your troubles and treasures and count them as loss. I rolled myself over as far as I could see. There was no one around, nobody sitting there next to me. This must be the end, I must be coming undone. That's when the voice laughed and said, now it's only just begun. At the foot of the cross, the foot of the cross, salvation, redemption, a new life, this is what it will cost. Bring all your troubles and treasures and count